And there we go. So welcome everybody. It is November 2nd. Welcome to MVP Office Hours US. This is Jackie Travieso. I am normally joined by Jared and Dale. Dale is traveling today and Jared is hopefully going to join us in about 30 minutes. But normally they are my partners in crime here on this call. So hopefully you're familiar with their voices. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. I like to start out with just a couple of resources in case you're not aware of them, and for any of you who are first-time attendees, there is a link up there to the right, admin.salesforce.com/all-events. Great place to go and take a look at what's going on out there in the community, along with the bit.ly/SF Cloud Services. Those are events that are put on by Salesforce that you can register for, whether they're in person or webinar type events. So check those out. I've got a couple of the end of the year upcoming Dreamin' events, which are all community led. If you're not familiar with those, they are events that are organized by community leaders who are not Salesforce employees, but people who within the ecosystem who have decided that they want to have kind of a mini Dreamforce event to bring to their local region. And so Florida Dreamin' is going on yesterday and today. I heard that they had baby alligators at their event, so I'm not quite sure how other events are going to outdo that, but that sounds like fun. The 2019 events are hitting the calendar. You can go to that bit.ly SF Dreams and check out what's coming down the pike. And then there's something that people may not be fully aware of, the community groups. There is a link there. It says join the Trailblazer group, success.salesforce.com featured group. So you can go out and find a group in your local area, hopefully it's local to you, where they either meet in person or virtually. So that's a great resource. And then Salesforce has just moved to a new RSVP platform for those community groups, and you'll want to go check that out at trailblazercommunitygroups.com and make sure you register. That is how you will receive email invitations. As a matter of fact, let's go to the next slide and I can show you some screenshots of what that looks like. So when you go to trailblazercommunitygroups.com, click that blue button right there in the center, then you're going to get a list of events that are local to your area. So this is now dynamic, which is pretty cool. It runs off your IP address. So you can see what's happening in your area. So I just want to make sure that people are aware of that, especially because they have recently changed to the new platform. All right, so if this is your first time calling into MVP Office Hours, the US, this call meets the first and third Friday of the month. Our next call is November 16th. You might want to bookmark that bit.ly MVPOHUS so that you can always register for the upcoming events. We just publish one event at a time. This is simply an open Q&A discussion. This is an opportunity for us to problem solve together, where we can talk about approaches, resources, give recommendations. Today's call is being recorded. We're going to go ahead and post it to both the community and Twitter. And you all are already muted, so in order to ask questions, you can simply raise your hand in the chat. Hopefully you have the chat widget open, or you can, when you get that widget open, you can unmute yourself and just announce yourself if we have dead air, or you can go ahead and pop your questions in the chat. We do have a couple of MVPs on the line today that we don't have with us on a regular basis, so I just wanted to call them out in case you have questions specifically in their area of expertise. We've got Brian Kwong, who's joined us, hopefully for a good portion of the call. If you've got questions around the flow, process builder, you may know him as a Flownatic or the Salesforce Wizard, so he's with us. We also have James Growecki. James is out of the Carolinas as well. James is someone to talk to about the community mentors group. So if you're looking for a mentor, he could point you to the right direction and get you hooked up. And who else do we have? Stuart. Stuart is on the line with us as well, and he runs a community group. Stuart, I want to say Minnesota, and I don't know if that is right. Can you unmute yourself and tell me where you're out of? Looks like he might not be able to.
Can I unmute myself? That's the first question.
That's the first question.
Yeah.
You did it.
Co-leader of the Twin Cities in Minnesota.
Sweet. Okay, so there we go. Good, good, good. Thank you so much. And then we've got Amanda Kratzer, who's on the line as well. Amanda is a Golden Hoodie winner not too long ago. So you might have a conversation with her about what the Golden Hoodie is, besides it being an award given out by Salesforce. And we've got Steve Mullis on the line today. So if you have questions about reports and dashboards, this is the opportunity to pop in and ask these questions. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you MVPs who are with us today. Really appreciate you taking the time to dial in and help answer some of these questions that people have and give us an opportunity to problem solve together. Let's see, what else did I want to tell you before we move on? Everybody is welcome to share their experiences, please. This is not one-sided MVP telling you what you need to know or how you need to do something. This is just an opportunity for us to come together and chat. So I encourage everyone to participate. We do have the ability to share screen. So if you want to share your screen to give us some insight into what you are trying to solve or where you're having a challenge, I just recommend that you make sure that you're not sharing anything that isn't classified in any form or fashion, because this call is being recorded. So with that, let's go ahead and turn it over to anybody who's got a question. So in the chat, go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself and let's go for it. And don't be shy. Looks like we've got a question from Peter. I was away from keyboard, MVP specialize in analytics and flow. So if you've got questions about Salesforce or Einstein Analytics, we've got an additional member on the line. And Peter, I don't believe I've met you, so glad to meet you virtually.
Hi, this is Melissa. I've got a question. It's
yes,
actually
please.
something I was just working on and I have not worked on before. I just added a designated admin, and my designated admin has the rights to log in as other people. It's the designated admin actually through a permission set. And we want her to be able to log in as her boss. But she can log in as a lot of people, but not her boss. They have the same role and profile. What else do I need to look for?
So who on this line works with the delegated admin?
Is this an actual, this is Ohad, I'm also an MVP. Is this an actual delegated admin, or is this an admin profile and you're trying to use the login as functionality?
It's not a system admin. It is a designated or delegated admin with a permission set. So I'm not sure exactly what the permission set includes. I can look at that too.
Okay.
She can log in as other people, just not the person we need her to log in as.
Okay, let me look a little bit, because I have not really used delegated admin to provide login as access. So,
is there anybody else that she can't log in as, or is it just this one person?
There are other people as well, but that's the only one we need her to log in as.
What's the? I mean, there must be some commonality amongst that group of people that she can't log in as. My guess would be that she's probably, and this is just a guess, something to test essentially, but my guess would be that she's probably lower, like you can't log in as people lower than you in the role hierarchy or siblings.
She's actually, her role is a VP because that's what her boss is, and he wanted her to have the same access as him.
Right. So if you try putting her in a role higher than him in the
higher than him.
Yeah. So and I guess this is just something to test. I don't know if this is the answer.
Sure.
My guess is that you can't log in. You can't use login as, to log in as somebody higher than you in the role hierarchy or a sibling in the role hierarchy. So if they're in the same role, then you likely so I can't do it. Just something to test.
That's probably true, and I had not thought of that. I figured since they were saying it would work.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thought being, like let's say you have an admin and maybe you don't want them to be able to log in as like the CEO of the company and make changes, that sort of thing.
Does this person's boss have they granted login access to system admin?
I log in as him, so I'm sure that.
Well, but if you're a system admin, that's different.
Okay.
So I
you
believe
would
for
have to-
delegated users, they have to actually say, "I'm granting access."
Oh. Okay, I did not know that. That's another thing for me to look at then.
Okay, great. Great input. Thank you, everyone. Okay, who else has a question? Someone's got to have a question around dashboards or reports. Lightning, Flow, Process Builder?
Oh, everyone knows everything they need to know about that.
I have a question. As far as dashboard filters, so with Einstein Analytics, if I want to have a filter, I just take my pick list option, I put it up there as a filter. But on a regular dashboard, there's got to be a better way than literally having a hard code every single value and or combination of values. If we have a dashboard that we want end users to be able to select their own filters to, we want to be able to spin this up easily when we add new pick list values or whatnot. Are there any good approaches besides having to literally micromanage these filters?
I thought I saw something in Winter 19 that had to do with dashboard filters. But that's all that I can say because I can't remember what it was now.
Could you run by the scenario again, Steve? So like you make change to the actual pick list field, the values in it, but now you've got to update the dashboard filters that reference that pick list field.
Yeah, because it's been a while since I've tried to do this, but in a regular dashboard, if I want to have that add a filter option to the top, and let's say it's a pick list of opportunity stages, I have to specifically hard code out the different values and say maybe I want stage 1 and 2 or stages 1, 2, and 3. I would love if it just drove natively off the pick list, where the user could just check off the ones they want. Because where it really drove home to me with how painful of a feature it was you're building Einstein Analytics dashboards and it literally just show whatever values are available in the beta. Then you switch back to a regular dashboard and you're like, oh, it's so bad.
Kind of like the, report level filtering where you can click on the stage and pick from the list the values you want to filter by.
Exactly.
That having that behavior, that's a tough one. I was gonna say if it was about a pick list field that was being updated, and then you gotta go and update the filter in the dashboard to add the new values and stuff like that. My suggestion there was going to be, and I did this myself just this week. We ran into the limit of the number of dashboard filters, and some other limitations, and using the dashboard component behavior of when the person clicks on that wedge in the pie chart, or that segment of the bar graph, or whatever it is in the component, that it drill them into the report and filter based on the thing that they clicked on. But that's not really going to help you because your bars, wedges, segments, pieces of a donut, what have you, are going to be a distinct stage. They're not going to be cultivation and prospecting or verbal contract negotiation, things like that, which is where in your dream world, that's what you could do. Either
because the
build the
segments
filters
don't
on the
support
fly,
multi-select, right?
or almost doing like a hold down the control key and click on 2 segments and then say, okay, drill into this report. Drill into the 2 things I clicked on. Yeah, that's a tough one. Afraid I don't get a hackish formula workaround for you on that one. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks anyway.
Only thing I could think of is if you find that you're doing this often enough and there is a common thread, sometimes that's the tipping point for creating a formula field that lumps those stages or would have you together. I mean, if it is that painful and it's happening often enough, it really, you getting to that tipping point where like, could I create a formula text field and just make my whole life easier? And that might be the solution, where you create a formula text field on the opportunity and bucket these stages into these the ones that you're commonly using. But it's up to you. Are you at that tipping point yet?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Great, thank you for that, Steve. Stuart.
Can I ask an Apex coding question?
Of course.
Can I prefix it with the fact that I'm not a developer, but I'm learning how to code, and ask that if I've stolen some code, in the fact that I'm learning, that I'm not going to be judged or shamed by that.
Of course not. Safe zone.
Okay.
We've all stolen code.
There's no stealing code. We all share our code happily, generally speaking.
Well, and this code that was given to me, so I thank you for saying that, because it was given to me saying, I think this code will help you. Am I able to share, just so that people can see what I'm doing? Not that it's going to necessarily help anybody. My question is going to be an easy question, but it may help just to see what I'm doing.
Yep, go ahead. I've stopped sharing on my end, so you should be able to share your screen.
And I'm going to share. I'm going to share my screen too, which is my developer console. And there's nothing really on here that's all that fascinating, except in essence what I'm doing is this code is going to grab, it's going to check for a file. Ooh, look at this. Don't copy this. It's going to look for an Amazon S3 bucket and grab a file in this bucket and then do some stuff to it. It's going to parse it out, take the stuff in that bucket, and then look for the column headers. These should be the column headers, and then parse what's in there and put that data into the different fields of my object. So I'll have, this is all shipping data. So are items on hold? Are items ready to ship? Are they going to ship after a date? If they've shipped, then here's the shipping line, address to, city, state, all that stuff. So it puts all that into my opportunity line item object. Great. All good stuff. Here's my question. How do I run it? So I want to execute this class, to run it once and see if it's working. This
Sure.
This is the dumbest question I've ever
No.
asked.
It is not dumb at all, because when I was learning code, I was trying to figure this out. So the easiest way for you, because it's static and you're already using the developer console, is if you click on the debug menu, there's this open execute anonymous window, or execute anonymous window, and this effectively lets you run code.
And so what I did, you can see this, I copy and pasted the entire thing in here, and that's
too much work.
That didn't work. That didn't work for me.
So this is what you can do. Is with static methods and classes, the way you can call it is you type the name of the class. So in this case, process forest file. Then you place a period, and then you're able to access the methods. So this would be your read forest file, parentheses, and what needs to go in the parentheses is the value you're passing into that method. So in this case, I believe it's a string. So it's the file name.
Oh, it's the file name.
So you would need to do single quotes, and then you could just literally type in, not double quotes, single quote. And then type in what your file name is.
Okay.
And then at the very end of all that, you would put a semicolon. Now, on the assumption that that's all your code needs to do everything, that's out there, that it's not needing to look up existing data or pass in anything else, that should call your method. Whether it will actually do everything you needed to do is a different question.
Okay. And so then, theoretically, if this works, then I could also build a schedulable class.
Yes.
That just calls this as its code.
Potentially. I mean,
Yeah,
it depends on
where you want to run it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also depends on where your file name is coming from. Is it always the same file over and over and over again?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, or does the file name change? Because then you need to have something that tells the code what is the file name to pass into your method, so your method knows what the file name is.
Yeah, and I think somewhere in the code it's doing that. It's trying to figure out what that file name is. So I'll have to play around with that a little bit. But this helps me to know, why was it so hard for me to find this?
I'll tell you, it's really simple. You're just learning the code, so you don't know the what I call developer speak, the jargon that they use to figure out what to do this.
Okay.
So when you're dealing with Apex, there are two types of methods that usually hang around. The first one is static, which is what you have here, where you have public static void. The other one is, non-static, and they're called differently. One is the static, which is, I think it's like 80% of the code I've ever written are static, is done this way, where you do class period and then your method name. Everything else is you have to what's called instantiate the class, so you would do something like process forest file space, give it a name, equals new process forest file, open parentheses, close parentheses, semicolon, and then you would access things that are underneath this public class. But if you're looking for examples, you can say call static method or do call non-static method, and you should find examples out on Google.
Okay.
Just include the word Apex out there.
Hey, Stuart, when I look at your class, I see you have the future annotation, which to me indicates this is intended maybe to run off of a trigger maybe, or when an opportunity is updated, you want to call this method from a trigger and maybe pass the file name from some value on the opportunity or something like this. So, the question whether it should be a schedulable, should it be a schedulable that runs a batch that calls this method, or whatever it is, determines on how you want to call this. The only other thing that I will say here, based on what I see in your code, is the future annotation. Futures are relatively simple. All you have to do is future annotate, as you did here in line 7, and then you can call this as an asynchronous code. I would recommend that you read a little bit about queuable classes, because queuable classes are to future what Process Builder was to workflow, right? So it's the next generation. It's a lot more capable, a lot more powerful, and gives you some cool stuff you can do that you can't do with future. For example, you can't call a future from another future. You can call a future from a batch, and with queuable you can do stuff like that. You can actually get the idea of the queuable and query to see if it was completed or not. With a future, you can't do that. There's a few other things, but you know, future is still useful. It's really simple, but queuables are not much more complicated.
No,
it'll be more lines.
It'll be a very small. I mean, do it in a separate class, but it'll be a very, very small thing.
Okay, that helps. Good. I've got some research to do.
Quick other comment on that. If you look at lines 12 and 13, it actually has conditional logic to handle if the name of file is null. It's going to name it, or it's going to call this other thing where, because I see parentheses there. I'm not really a big code guy myself, but it says create today file name parentheses. So that's going to figure out if you're not giving it a file name, you should be able to just delete name of file right there, hit execute, and something will happen. Not necessarily something good, not necessarily the thing you want.
Exactly the same thing.
But
the same exact thing would happen. Yeah. Because if you see line 3 is essentially an overload of line 8. Overload means that you can create two different signatures with the same names. So in this case, both read forest file and read forest file in line 8 are the same method, but one accepts a string and one accepts nothing. So Salesforce Apex, when you call that method, if you don't pass anything, it will execute the method in line 3. If you pass something, which has to be a string, it will execute 8. And what you can see, in fact, is that in the first method in line 3, all it does is says, oh, if I didn't get any parameter, I'm going to call the other method in line 8 and pass an empty string.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's a good implementation, because it allows you to call that method with no parameters at all, or with a parameter.
Cool.
All right, so Stuart, you're good to go. You think
I am there. I'm moving along. So
awesome.
I've got more work to do, but I'm feeling good.
I am so glad that we had these experts on the line, because all I could do is probably refer you to somebody else. So that was fantastic. Thank you all so much for giving us some lessons in code today. That was fantastic. Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Looks like Bruno has a question. Bruno, I'm going to unmute you.
Sounds good. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Thanks for your time on the call, everyone, experts. These calls are always very useful. Thank you. My question today has to do with Process Builder. I've built a Process Builder, and I'm about to pull my hair out because it's not acting the way I want it to. And I'll walk through that scenario. It's quite a simple one, to be honest. I've got an opportunity object. I've got a sort of a section that's project team. So people want to sort of track, who's the designer on this opportunity, who's installer, so forth. So imagine 4 or 5 fields. They're just lookups to contact objects. So there's one specific account with all contacts. I didn't want to use the opportunity team because not everyone has licenses. So I just wanted to, have lookups to a specific account full of contacts. And that's been running for a while. It's good. And then somebody says, what if I've got 2 designers I want to put on this? So I've decided to create a custom object to track the project team. And then I'm using, I thought, let's have a process until I can remove the fields to sort of take any additions, any adjustments to any of those fields and sort of turn them into the related object, right, for project team. So I built a flow that basically says, starts to top, says if the designer's changed and not null, create a record in the project team, with the contact and the appropriate role. And then at the end of that branch, instead of stopping, you sort of say continue. And then on the second one, I check, okay, if it's a installer, do the same. And I've got there's 6 or 7 of them, and then it stops. And so when I run it, what I find is it's kind of random. Sometimes I'll get 6 designers that are entered on my object, and I'm pulling my hair out because I thought there's got to be some other workflow that's, doing something. It's not recursive, so it's not doing anything over again. And I don't see any workflows or process builder flows that could be doing this. So I'm at the point where I'm just looking for any input from anybody, if there's any other, apps that we may have installed that could be doing that, or where to look. Even triggers. There's no triggers on the opportunity object, so I'm just looking for direction.
Okay. So there's a couple things that you can look at. One of them is, I hate to say it, but process builder is really difficult to kind of debug.
Yeah.
You can kind of get an idea by using the developer console to capture the logs. You just need to make sure that you you just have to make sure that you update the oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Basically the log levels. So if you open up developer console, click on the debug menu, select change log levels, which is the very last one. You'll see a list of items, and there will be an add/change button. And when you click that, what you want to have selected is under workflow, you want to have selected finer. Then you can click done and done. And then what you do is do whatever you do in the system that will call your process, and it'll generate a log for you. And if you double click on that, it'll give you a list, and you'll be able to say, hey, this is when the process gets called. It'll be listed as a flow, and it'll give you each criteria node that you have will be listed as my decision 1, my decision 2. And it'll give you an idea of what's returning true, what's returning false.
Okay.
I will say this.
All right, and then I should find out.
Yeah, 9 times out of the 10 when people are saying, hey, I have a process and it's doing more than I expected, it's usually due to either your criteria is not set up exactly right to ensure that it only gets called when it needs to be called, or the action that it's doing, like a flow or something else, it ends up calling another process because it's doing something like creating or updating a record.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, but couldn't find it. Okay, but that's useful because I figured I need to go into the logs and look further, so I'll try that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I always suggest if your process builders are too complicated, use them to call, don't do it with process builder, do it with flow. Just use a process builder to call the flow, because then you have that whole debug screen. The error reporting's a lot better instead of my decision 1, my decision 2. Plus, you can also use assignment elements to set a random variable so that you can have debugs. So you can say, set my debug variable to, I chose the decision to go up and to the left. It's much easier to debug a flow than it is to debug a process builder, because we have if for no other reason that we can name our nodes.
Sure. That's good advice too. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great conversation. Thank you. All right. Rhiannon has a question for us.
Hi, this is Rhiannon. I have probably what's a little bit more of a basic question, but I'm still kind of new to the admin side of Salesforce. I have someone who created a pick list value that is appearing on all of my case types, and I only want it to appear on a specific case type. Is there a way to change that so that it doesn't appear on all the case types? I know when you originally create the value, you can suppress it from some lists, but after it's on all of them, is there a way to do that?
You're just talking about the individual pick list value, not a different field. You said case types, right?
Right. So it's like there's a specific value that was created and it's showing in all of my record types, and I don't want it on all of them.
So you are using record types?
Yes.
Okay, so you can go into those other record types and remove that value from the record types that you don't want. So when you go into the record types, you'll get a list of all the pick lists, the various pick list fields that have been created. You can drill into that pick list and then remove that value.
Let me see here. Okay, I will try that.
Okay. And there's no such thing as a basic question. All questions are good questions, so do never feel bad about asking.
Well, thank you.
Everybody's at different levels and different experiences, so that's why we do this, so we can help each other.
Awesome.
All right. Who's next with a question? We've got a really good group today. Looks like Steve Moe has had to jump off for school pickup, and Ohad has also jumped off. So we still have Brian with us. If you've got any more process builder or flow questions or code questions.
Bad jokes.
Okay, bad jokes.
Baby seal walks into a club.
No, I don't like that one.
Okay,
What kind of club was it?
why does Waldo
Disco?
wear stripes?
I have no idea.
Waldo wears stripes because he doesn't want to be spotted.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'll tell my 5-year-old nephew that one. That's a good one. All right, go ahead and tell your baby seal joke.
That was the joke.
No, that
Oh,
was the whole joke.
that was the whole joke. Okay.
It wasn't
got
much of a joke.
What do you
All right.
call a man with a rubber toe?
I don't know.
Roberto.
Roberto. Oh, gosh.
Just saw that one today.
Oh my goodness. That is so bad.
Yeah. Okay, are there any other questions or jokes?
Yes. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to ask one question. I don't know if this fixes in the works or if it ever will be in the works for Process Builder, or actually Flow. But Flow has made great strides to help us debug what's been going on. When we're taking a look at the debug logs, we can actually see how things are running, but it's even better now that they've put this detail of passing parameters directly into the debug in Flow. So that's been great. The only thing and this is a simple question, I mean, it's not really a big design issue. I just was wondering, is there another way, like every time you need to activate the particular flow you're in, you have to, from what I understand, so once you make the updates and you do a save as to keep it at the saved version because you don't want to create a new one, you're just saving it, you have to close out of it to click on it to make it active again. Is there another way where you can just make it active while you're still in the flow?
Yes, have a second tab open.
Oh.
That's
Oh.
So here's what I'll say.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I think I know what you're saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, so here's what I'll say. That's not going to be changing until the new builder comes out, hopefully in spring, safe harbor type of thing. Because I know the current builder that we're using is built on Flash. It's basically dead in the water. It's not going to be developed on anymore.
Okay.
And they've been working really hard to put a new builder. They kind of showed a little bit off at Dreamforce this year. So that's supposed to come out, and it's at that point where they'll have a lot more capability to do things, like make it easier for us to just save and activate.
Okay. Thanks a lot. That's what I was looking for. That's exactly what I was thinking. Just a pet peeve of mine, but yeah.
I do the same thing too, and it's kind of annoying. And then you just keep it open in a second tab, reload, activate, reload, activate. Another great trick is if you ever notice that when you open a flow in Classic, you've got the blue bar at the top. When you open your flow in Lightning, you've got an even larger white bar in top, just chewing up all this real estate. Okay. And with larger flows, that can get really annoying. But one trick is you keep your list of versions of the flow open in Classic. Then in a different tab, if you switch to Lightning, it'll open up with Lightning, but it'll be missing the Lightning header. So that way you can actually squeeze even more real estate than you would in the Classic. It's just a little trick to get a little extra real estate. Open it from have the list view of flows in Classic, open it from there, but have after you've switched to Lightning in a different tab.
Oh, that's good. Thanks for the tip on that as well. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
You are welcome. Rhiannon, if you didn't notice, both Stuart and James dropped a couple of resource links in the chat that you might want to go grab that have to do with record types and such to help answer your question. And if you have another question, Rhiannon, go ahead and ask. I'm going to unmute you.
Thanks. So I did try to go to the record types, and I'm in the record types, and I'm looking at what's called our general case record type. and I've got a section that comes up that says pick lists available for editing, but the pick list that I need to edit is not there.
Did you check under the support process for cases, opportunities, and leads? It's not only record type, it's also support process or business process or whatever the object appropriate name is.
Okay, perfect. I'll try that next. Thank you.
Okay, who else has a question? We've got about 20 minutes left. This has been great conversation, y'all. Appreciate it. Marty, there you are. I've been waiting for you to ask a question.
Hi, thank you.
Hi there.
I've been away. So if we still have the Einstein person on the line, I have a client who has Inbox with Einstein Activity Capture turned on. And I know that in winter 19, even though it's still 18, but in winter 19, they gave some product of Einstein to everyone with Sales Cloud. If someone could give kind of the 2-sentence description of the different Einstein pieces.
Yeah, what you're talking about is Sales Cloud Einstein, which had previously only featured Activity Capture and 1 or 2 other things. It's a $50 add-on license. This should include the Sales Analytics pre-built dashboards. You do need to configure your users correctly to be able to use this. I would say go to the Einstein Analytics Trailblazer community, and if you mention Bobby Brill from Salesforce, that's his product, governance ship. He owns it. He's in charge of that. But users have been posting recently that this exact use case. It's like, okay, well, we have it, but now how do we give our users access to these dashboards? There's a couple of threads recently that are talking about that exact thing. But what this is going to give you access to, now you do have to have somebody go into Einstein Analytics, configure the Sales Analytics wizard, which is real simple. It's like a 15-minute walkthrough that says things like, you know, what field do you segment your customers by geographically? You know, is it going to be country or state or what have you? And when you go through this wizard, based on the options you select, it's going to create between, 10 and 15 dashboards that are all around pipeline management, opportunity, lead. They're pretty useful. There's a reasonable amount of customization that you can do to them as well. But as far as exposing it to the users, I think once they have their licenses set up correctly, it's going to be a new tab for them that'll just say analytics, and that'll expose that suite of dashboards to them.
Great. So yesterday, a Salesforce support person did that for the 2 executives. And interestingly, one can access it and the other can't. And so basically they see the analytics dashboard from the, what I call tic-tac-toe. And they have it.
The app picker.
Yeah, when they hover on it or try and click on it, nothing happens. And the other person gets right in. Have you seen that?
I would look for differences in the permission set license assignments on those users.
That's what I'll do. And one last thing on this. So I said they have Inbox and they have it all set up. And we were told that now the only way to see emails is from the Einstein Analytics dashboard. We can see them if I'm in Salesforce and I'm looking at the contact or the account, I see that it was an activity. But if I run a activities report, you don't see them. You only see them in the Einstein Analytics view. And that,
I'm not particularly familiar with that flavor of Einstein. Okay. Maybe once you've got the activity capture set up, it's storing those records differently.
Yeah.
Because it used to store them as a type of activity.
Right. I did a test where I sent an email various ways, and they're right. That is the only thing, and I don't know if other people have seen that and noticed that because it does seem kind of odd. But okay, thank you very much. I'll go into the Trailblazer community.
All right, great. Thank you for the question, Marty. Marty always has great questions.
Thank you.
You do. And it looks like Rhiannon got the solution. She's got it fixed. So she says, thank you, everyone. It was in this support processes tab. So good job. Solution there. All right, who else has a question? We've got about 15 minutes left. Does anybody have a new favorite Winter 19 feature?
I like the search within list. That's been a huge help.
Yes, that is awesome. Thank you.
I like the new Analytics Plus license that gives you, and this is a new SKU that's recently available. You can get Einstein Analytics and Einstein Discovery all with one license. And there's also a new unified UI for that. It looks a lot cleaner. It's a lot easier to use. It looks a lot more like standard Salesforce branding instead of, you know, these bright purples, sharp corners, black outlines. You can use Einstein Analytics data sets in Discovery without having to push them over. Right now it's by opt-in only, but it's kind of a bold statement to say that this is one product and that the two products are going to gradually unify. It's going to be several releases before we really see that kind of come to full fruition, but I thought that was a really cool add. There's also, with this, you also get Einstein Insights. So in a standard report, you can run the Einstein Discovery Descriptive Analytics and it'll find patterns and say like, oh, well, the example that they had was, if contract is month to month, you have a much higher rate of attrition versus annual or 2-year contracts, especially when these different options are picked. So being able to do that on a standard report is really cool. And the requirements for it aren't too strict either. You just need more than 500 rows in there.
Very cool. That's neat. Anyone else? Anyone else come up with questions?
Jackie, this is Jared.
Hey, Jared, welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I would say one of the things in the latest release that is really cool and coming from a communities geek like myself is the latest native content within communities, where you can go in and create content within community workspaces, add it to topics, create content collections, and it comes with a couple different components, standard components that you can then put within your community to share out said content, either a collection or a single content item. And so yeah, it's pretty slick feature, and definitely is going to help out with the community's product.
Awesome. All right, one last. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I have something. Sorry, this is Stuart. I have something that's not in Winter, but it is something new that Carlos V pointed me to. A tool called clickdeploy.io, and I am using it because I am, as I showed earlier, I'm trying to code something in Sandbox, and then we'll be trying to then deploy it to our production work the way that good admins should do. And so in order to do that, I could make a change set. Yes, I could. But Carlos said, why don't you try this other tool to deploy it? And so I'm trying this other tool, and it's kind of slick. It shows you all of the items that changed, have a difference between Sandbox and prod. And so then I can, in essence, select the classes and fields and lightning pages and layouts and reports and everything that has changed, and then deploy those from Sandbox to production in an easy fashion. And so I'm testing it out now, and so far it's looking pretty cool. So I'm having fun with that tool.
That sounds great. Is that a free tool?
It is free.
If it's free, it's for me. Have you run into any gotchas or things that we need to think about? Or are you not that far into it yet?
I'm not that far into it. You know, the gotcha around creating, it's just exposing the gotchas around creating change sets the normal way. You know, you'd go into your sandbox and create an outgoing change set, and you'd have to know and remember everything you did that changed. And that's great if you have a steel trap mind, but in my instance, I don't remember every single thing. And did I create a remote site for this thing? I did. What was the name of that thing again? And I have to find it. And the reports that I changed, boy, what were the names of all those things again? And so this just makes it a lot easier. Doing it through outbound change sets is kind of a difficult process for somebody that doesn't remember every single detail.
Very good point. And especially if you're building something over multiple months and it finally gets approval and you've had different iterations of it, and then you can't remember exactly what you did over that duration.
What changed?
Yeah,
What changed?
Exactly. And we did
Yeah.
3 different versions of this. What pieces went with which version that was finally approved? So I'm assuming with this clickdeploy.io, you have to have obviously credentials for both instances. I'm wondering if there's any kind of connection between the two without having, I'm saying this out loud as I'm thinking about it, which is kind of dumb, but I do have a scenario where I'm working in Sandbox, getting all my chain sets ready, and then somebody else is pushing it into production. It'd be great if I could see any kind of differences between the two without having obviously credentials into production. But it's probably not something that this would even be. I'm just thinking out loud and with the scenario that I have right now.
That's great. I will look that up next time we talk. I can see if I have some more information on that, because I will continue to play around with it.
Okay, just curious. I mean, it's got to have some kind of a connection to be able to look at it, but I didn't know if there's any kind of a workaround. All right, very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Hopefully others can benefit from that as well. And Brian, you had mentioned to me this week that you're going to start using something to package and move from Sandbox into Lightning or into production for the whole Lightning platform, as opposed to change sets.
Not specifically with Lightning.
Okay.
So just in general, so we've used chain sets in the past, which are challenging at times. We've used the IDE, which works great if they're enterprise customers, but not so great if they're professional edition. There's a paid-for app out there called GearSet that we're going to try the 30-day trial for, to do a bunch of deploys that we have coming up to see how it works. And it's supposed to be able to do things like identify what's different between your Sandbox and your production org, and give you the capability to say, well, here's what I want to have deployed, and here's what I don't want to have deployed. So haven't tried it yet. Hopefully soon.
All right, fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. I couldn't remember the name of it. GearSet. All right, anybody else? We've got about 7 minutes left. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to go the full 7 minutes. One last shot at a last round of questions. Or anything that you want to share. Yes, Marty, go ahead.
Hi. Does anybody have a strong recommendation for a soft phone that integrates well with Salesforce Sales Cloud?
I do not. I would just recommend that anything that you try,
Keyword too is strong.
This is Ruth Kunakovich.
Yeah.
I have integrated RingCentral pretty easily.
Okay.
Before, and the configuration is pretty simple as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the midst of trying out the Amazon Connect system, integrating that with our Salesforce Sandbox, and that in testing worked out really well. And there's a trail that walks you through how to connect the Amazon Connect phone CTI to Salesforce that is pretty easy to follow. But then the question becomes, what do you want to use for your phone system? It's more than just what soft phone connects well. It's then, do you want to adopt the entire Amazon backend as your phone integration? And that may be a whole different question for a different time.
Right. This is just for mostly distributed salespeople so that someone can monitor their sales calls, particularly as they're learning. So I don't think they want to fully change the phone system at this time. So that's a good idea. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So Scott says that he's just fired up that clickdeploy.io, and he says it's brilliant. So you've got an endorsement right there. That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing, Scott. All right, well, if y'all don't have any more questions or anything else that you want to talk about or resources that you need, we can certainly give you a couple minutes back into your Friday so that you can jump onto your next call or whatever your next deadline is. We will see you here. Let's see, I think our next call is the 16th. So thank you everyone for jumping in, sharing. This has been an amazing call. I appreciate all of the MVPs who jumped on. If you jumped on and I didn't get an opportunity to introduce you, I do apologize, but please know that we really, really appreciate you jumping in and sharing your expertise. So have a great weekend, everyone, and take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks.
Bye. Thanks for the help.
Bye. Thanks a lot.